Do you have a secret you've never told anyone?
No.
Gotcha.
What do you mean?
Everyone has secrets and they all replied too quickly.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Welcome to my Sherlock Q&A for Sign of 3. Everyone had a ton of questions, so I picked 20 and tried to combine as many answers as possible. There were a lot of questions that were very similar. There were also a lot of questions about episode 3, as well as the fate of Mary and a lot of other things that I'm going to save for my breakdown video. I'll try to post that video on Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe to get it. That'll include everything like references to the books, or specific things, or little plot details that kind of give us clues about what's going to be happening next. Also, heads up, a lot of the TV shows that I normally do videos for are starting to come back, so my video schedule is going to start to get back to normal pretty soon. Since this video is all about answering specific questions about plot details and characters and things that happened during the Sign of 3, if you haven't seen the episode yet, be careful for major spoilers. So a lot of stuff to get through, let's get started. Question number 1, Ian McGregor asks, please explain how the murder knife worked. So Jonathan Small, aka the wedding photographer, aka the Mayfly Man, used a very thin knife to stab both Bainbridge, that person from the case of the Bloody Guardsman, and Major Sholto at the wedding. He did it through their belts, so the knife was super fine. That means it was just super sharp. Because of that, they didn't feel it when he stabbed them. The idea is that he would basically stab them and they would bleed slowly internally until they died. Question number 2, Jake Bamford Eldson asks, why do you think it was Mycroft that was helping Sherlock in his mind palace instead of Watson? Sherlock manifested Mycroft in his head because either consciously or subconsciously, he thought that Mycroft was the best person to help him deduce the Mayfly Man. Remember, Sherlock has already demonstrated that he thinks Mycroft is smarter than he is, as seen during Empty Hearse. So his mind was just summoning the smartest person it could think of. Question number 3, Matthew Staton asks, was the main villain of the series in the book? If you're talking about Jonathan Small, Lord Stabbington, then yes, he's based on a character named Small in the book, The Sign of 4, which is what the episode is loosely inspired by. If you're talking about the villain Charles Augustus Magnuson, then no, he wasn't part of the original story, The Sign of 4. He is referenced briefly during Sherlock's wedding speech when he's reading off all those cards. Question number 4, Melena Torres asks, do you think the end of episode 3 will be a cliffhanger for season 4? Yes, I do. When Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman signed on for series 3, they also signed on for series 4. I'll talk mostly about the plot of His Last Vow whenever I do my videos for that episode next week. But yes, we are guaranteed a classic Sherlock-style cliffhanger. Question number 5, Lynn Robinson asks, what do you think the connection between Mary and the main villain, Charles Augustus Magnuson, is? So I'll talk more about this in greater detail during my breakdown video, but for now, I'll just say that when Sherlock was reading the notes from the people at the wedding, one of the notes was from the villain. You can either rewatch that scene and try and guess what I'm talking about, or just, wait for my breakdown video on Wednesday. But the fact that the main villain sent Watson and Mary a note at their wedding should tell you just how connected she is to him. Question number 6, the Sherlock Avatar asks, how do you think that Sherlock will handle being isolated since the Sign of 3 does not include him? So you're asking about what's going to happen to Sherlock now that Watson has a wife and a baby. Remember how Sherlock carried Watson around in his head for those 2 years while he was away. When he was solving crimes with Molly, he kept talking to Watson in his mind palace. The same thing will happen here. Sherlock will still talk to the two of them as if they're always in the room with him. And his vow was that he would always protect them. So he will have to be involved with their lives on some level. Short answer, yes, Sherlock is going to be very lonely and he'll talk to Mind Palace Watson a lot, but Watson and Mary both consider Sherlock part of their family, so they're not going to cut him out completely. Question number 7, Fangirl1502 asks, how will Sherlock's last vow tie into the last episode? The vow implied that he would die for the 3 of them if need be, and he'd stop at nothing to protect them, so I think that he'll end up in a situation that the Mind Palace can't help him solve. He'll have to make a choice that will mean the death of one character over the other. Whether it's his own death, or Mycroft's, or Watson's, or Mary's, who knows. More to that though, Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch have both signed contracts for Series 4, meaning that they're going to come back, so they're probably not going to die in this 3rd episode. Question number 8, Mahmood Lagnavi asks, what are the true intentions of Mary, and is she good or bad? What about news for Series 4? So Mary is a good character, but remember, when Sherlock deduced her, it said that she was disillusioned. She probably has the wrong idea about a certain person that will be very, critical in that 3rd episode. So no, she's not evil. As for Series 4, we really don't know anything about the plot, but we do know that both actors have signed on. I will be doing a predictions video next week after episode 3 airs though. Question number 9, Fruity Game asks, is it the murder game? So you're actually asking about the question that I asked you guys during my review video, the game that I was going to start playing at parties. No, that was actually Drunk Deductions. I will be playing Drunk Deductions at the next party that I go to. Just think of it now, Eggy Chair City thing. Question number 10, Solaris290 asks, were you surprised to see Donovan? Yes, she was not available for filming whenever they made episode 1, but the interesting thing is that all those scenes at the beginning of the episode happened around the time that Sherlock came back. There were about 6 months between the events of that episode, which took place in November, and this episode, which took place in May. So Donovan was around whenever all that stuff was going on during episode 1, but the interesting thing is that you don't see her in present day in this episode, and you don't see Anderson. Maybe they're just off doing it again like they were during Study in Pink, who knows? Question number 11, Flora3722 asks, why is Mycroft wearing a wedding ring? You have a good eye. When we see Mycroft talking to Sherlock, we see a wedding ring on his right hand. Most Western cultures wear wedding rings on the left hand, and Mark Gatiss has said very clearly on his Twitter that Mycroft is not married. There's all kinds of things that a ring on the right hand could mean. It could just be a family heirloom or just a sign of commitment. Mark Gatiss did say that it was a very intentional choice by the production team, but he would not say exactly what it meant. Something really interesting to think about though is that Anthea also has a ring on her right hand, so let the theories fly. Question number 12, Christine Silmaro asks, why was the episode called Sign of 3? So the plot was inspired by elements from the Sign of 4 book, and a lot of the character names like Small and Major Sholto. That book involved this really convoluted treasure plot that Mary Morstan got tied up in, so obviously a lot of aspects of that story got changed. Question number 13, Marisol Lasada asks, is Mary standing in front of the horns foreshadowing? It makes it look like they're coming out of her head. So this actually means a couple things. It's a reference to her being a bit of a trickster. She was playing both Sherlock and Watson to get them out of the house so she could plan that wedding. I also think that it's a general ominous warning that there's some sort of supernatural aspect to her character. When I say supernatural, I just mean that her character is much larger than what the story has presented her as so far. Good eye though, that was actually one of the most gifable moments of the episode with that big thumbs up she gave. Question number 14, Wensley Talleyrand asks, will we see more of Sherlock and the Bridesmaid? Only in hetero fanfiction. Their final scene where she said, I wish you weren't the way you were, and he said, me too, just means that they're both acknowledging that they're never going to be a thing. Sherlock is just way too Sherlock for his own good. If you search Tumblr though, I'm sure you could probably find at least a little bit Sherlock Bridesmaid fanfic. Question number 15, Sis Saya asks, what did Redbeard mean when Mycroft was talking to Sherlock on the phone? So Mycroft was talking about the end of an era. Redbeard and his brother were pirates together, and after his brother died, Redbeard continued the tradition of being a pirate. So Mycroft was just telling Sherlock that he'd always be there for him, and after the loss of Watson, who, is kind of like Sherlock's brother, Sherlock would have to carry on his work alone. I guess you could also take that to mean that Sherlock is a bit of a pirate too. Question number 16, Devin Stasbaugh asks, do you think we'll see that one character from the Mind Palace again this series? No, not this series, but possibly another cameo next series during series 4. But she'll never be completely gone as long as she's rattling around naked in Sherlock's head. Question number 17, Hoorgirl asks, will you do more Sherlock videos when it airs again in the United States? Yes, I will definitely be doing more Sherlock videos. They'll be different from the videos that I'm doing right now. They'll just be a little bit different, but they'll still be fun, and I might even do a giveaway. Question number 18, Maria Vosa asks, what's up with Mary's shirt? So you're talking about the thumbs up shirt. That was really funny and really weird. I think that it was just meant to be funny from a visual standpoint and just reinforce the idea that Mary thinks of herself as a bit of a trickster. She would have had to have chosen that shirt on purpose, knowing full well that she was giving them that thumbs up while she was wearing it. There are no coincidences on Sherlock. Everything has a purpose. Question number 19, Yuki Ame asks, how do you think Mycroft would react if he thought Sherlock died? And is Sherlock becoming more social going to hurt his abilities to solve crimes? Good questions. I think that Mycroft would feel an approximation of sadness. Mark Gatiss' version of the character is a lot warmer than the book version. He's a lot nicer, but he wouldn't cry. And yes, I do think that Sherlock's ability to solve crimes will be affected now that he's so, emotionally involved with Watson, Mary, and their baby. I think a lot more of that will tie in with the plot of episode 3, Sherlock being super connected with these people now. Question number 20, and last one. Ether says, Sherlock is starting to explore the character's emotions way too much and is focusing less on the puzzle-solving, core strain of the character itself. You actually had a really epic comment, so high fives. Emotional Sherlock was actually a pretty common complaint I saw in the comments from you guys. So I'll say that yes, this series, more so than in previous series, the character has swung back and forth to both ends of the emotional spectrum, and it's been profoundly weird. In Empty Hearse, he was completely disconnected from Watson in a human sense, and now the 3 or 4 of them, depending on how you look at it, are turning into this family unit. There was actually an anime episode that I just did a video for, and the title of it was Once More with Feeling, which kind of made me think of this as like Sherlock, once more with feeling. What I think we'll see in episode 3 is that, emotional pendulum swing back to the middle. So in that first episode, he's gone from super detached to super attached in this episode. And by the end of series 3, I think we'll see him kind of return back to that middle ground where he's that Sherlock that you're really looking for. So thank you so much everyone for submitting your questions. This was a ton of fun. I'll be posting that breakdown video by Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe to get it. That'll go into a lot of the contextual clues that will give us an idea for where episode 3 and maybe even series 4 is going. Remember that nothing on Sherlock is a coincidence, from the things that they say, the clothes they wear, even the way that scenes are filmed. Right now you can click here to get my review of episode 2, and you can click here to get my breakdown of episode 1. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. High fives.